The time is 6:36. And we will call the meeting to order. Everybody would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item C, adjustments to the agenda.
Yes, Madam Chair, I have one adjustment but one announcement. You notice on the agenda there is a staff presentation listed, but we did not have a list of what that presentation was. We were still negotiating to find out who that was. We have Doug Libby here tonight to talk about the EEMS Mentor-Mentee program, so we look forward to that. And I do have one item that I would like you to add, and the recommended motion is to amend the agenda by adding the following item: discussion and consideration of a proposal for vision mission process for the Ellsworth School Department. And I would ask that you consider this item under new business preceding item 3.
I move to amend the agenda as the superintendent just described.
Second. Any discussions? All in favor? The next item is the approval of the minutes from the January 13th meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes January 13th as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Communications and correspondence?
Yes, we had 2 letters that I've submitted to the board for review, retirement letters, which I will address specifically in my report.
Thank you. This is the public participation portion of our meeting. If there's anybody in attendance that wants to bring something to the board to discuss. Item G, administrators' report. We'll start with Mr. Appelstein. You have some things to be able to choose on your way.
Thank you very much for allowing me to go first to get back to the game. And I need to extend my apologies because I'm sure I missed 1 or 2 items in this already long report that I believe I sent 3 drafts of to our superintendent. So with that being said, I have a number of things to report about tonight. At our weekly staff PLC meeting last week, we reached a final decision about preserving our current master bell schedule for the next year and voted not to move to a block schedule for next year. We currently require students to take 7 classes, and we're looking at reducing the required number to 6, but we want to preserve the opportunity for students to take 7 if they choose to. This is part of our ongoing conversation about how we can enhance our current master bell schedule and our course offerings to best support our movement toward a proficiency-based diploma model. In line with that, the EHS Proficiency-Based Diploma Steering Committee met yesterday, and we reviewed the ESD timeline that was created at the Proficiency-Based Education meeting on the 30th of January, and we will continue to meet weekly to do this important work. Today, at the high school, Rachel and members of the EEMS and EHS math teams met to begin working on aligning the math curriculum, instruction, and assessments in a vertical fashion. And I received a document late today from all the good work that they did, and it looked great to me so far. And I believe Rachel will address that in more detail later. Amy Bowles met with all sophomores and interested juniors today during our focused learning period in the auditorium and talked about the process for applying to and attending HCTC next year. I have to give a great thanks to her, as well as Ms. Pelletier. They go out to 7 or 8 schools and do this, and with all the snow days, et cetera, they were wonderful in rescheduling, I think, 3 times to pull it off. I also have to give a shout out, if I can, to the students who were extremely well behaved and listened attentively and asked wonderful questions. Speaking of that sophomore class, they will all be taking the ASVAB test this Thursday. The EHS NEASC accreditation follow-up committee work has begun for our 5-year report, and I had a conversation with Rachel last week, and she will very much be involved in that as well. There are issues related to curriculum and instruction, and we'll certainly update you as we go along with that. We will be hosting a MELMAC-sponsored 8th grade career fair and EHS information session on Wednesday morning, February 25th for all sending schools. And we will also be hosting our annual 8th grade open house on Thursday, March 5th from 6 to 7:30 for all sending schools as well. And the last series of announcements all relate to students. Last Friday's District 6 High School Music Festival was a big success. We hosted well over 200 plus student musicians from around the state. Congratulations are in order because for the first time in the history of Ellsworth High School, the 2015 wrestling team won the Eastern Maine Class B title. Despite winning 2 state titles in the early 80s, Ellsworth was never able to edge fellow PVC rival Foxcroft Academy for the regional championship, and they did that last Saturday. So congratulations to them. Also, congratulations to our cheering team who placed 3rd in the state championship last Saturday. Congratulations as well to the EHS girls 4x800 indoor track team for placing 1st in the 2015 PVC Indoor Track Championship last Saturday. And I think I may have missed 1 or 2 others. Is that correct, Dawn, that may have gained a championship? I apologize. The girls' prelim basketball game versus Gardner is going on as I deliver this report. And when I turned the radio off, it was 9-6 Gardner at the end of the first quarter. The boys' prelim game versus MDI is tomorrow evening at 7, and all students wearing EHS school colors will get into both games at half price. Go Eagles.
Very nice.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
get
you,
back
Mr.
to the game, enjoy it.
Thank you very much. I'll text somebody with an update.
Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. Appleton.
All right,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Enjoy the
Thank
game.
you.
Thanks.
What time do you think the game will end, roughly?
Probably by 7:30 it'll be over, I think,
All right.
roughly.
Yeah, text us, because we might still be in session.
As Mr. Higgins said, I'll get back in time for the comeback.
Good evening, Jim Newitt, principal at the Ellsworth Elementary Middle School, grades 5 through 8. In curriculum news, our K-8 teachers, not just 5 through 8, have begun working on their individual learning plans for students who are below grade level, and we ascertain that through our iReady tests. Also, teachers have been charged at the middle level with developing and implementing lessons and assessments that will meet our newly identified essential skills in ELA and math. We did that identification at an earlier workshop, and now at our faculty meeting last week, the expectation is that we will be creating some standards-based units and delivering those and grading those, not on the 0 to 100 scale, but on a 1 through 4 rubric scale, and we'll be reporting that information to parents. And we will be hosting a parent meeting before that takes place, so parents are clued in as to how that's going to be done. We also have a K-8 leadership team. They met last week on Friday. It was our first meeting with them since we have been identified as a focus school. So it was sharing a lot of information about what our expectations are around that. And those expectations are set by the state. Amy, Rachel, and I will be meeting with the gentleman by the name of Al Pfeiffer from the DOE this Thursday to go over all these various indicators we need to meet through a program called Virago Star. In extracurricular news, basketball has wrapped up. Mr. Libby's here. He had a very nice season, worked very well with the young ladies. And the cheering competition is going on right now, and we have another cheering competition tomorrow. Then there's a little bit of a break before the state cheering competition in March. With the end of basketball starts wrestling. Wrestling started yesterday. We don't have a big crew out this year, but they all enjoy it. We have 2 young ladies participating as well, which is nice. And Erin Will, a former EHS student, is running the show. And our jazz band and show choir, they're gearing up for their regional jazz festivals in March. And the goal, of course, is to make it to the state finals, which are also in March. Just to reiterate what Mr. Applestein said, open house for 8th graders attending EHS next year is March 5th, 6 to 7:30. And registration will take place on March 24th and 25th. Parents are to call the school to set up those appointments for registration. And we do have a winter carnival this Friday from 9:40 to 11:30. We certainly would welcome parents helping us out with some of the various events we run during the carnival. Please call the school. Now I will turn into Mrs. Roper. You have her report. She's not feeling so great. And again, as I mentioned, some of the things in my report are not just middle level. They're involving some of the elementary grades. And this Maine College Circle, Amy's first item, involves some of the middle school grades. And Maine College Circle was done last year for the first time, and this is when students get to submit an application for a scholarship towards college. And they are required to write an essay based on what they want to be and study and what schools they would like to attend. And it's a rather formal process, and the kids did a great job with it last year. Today was day 1, meeting with the gentleman that spearheads this. And hopefully we'll get some applications in on April 1st, which is the due date. The NAEP, NAEP, is a federal assessment that grade 4 students will be taking part in this year. Thankfully, middle level was spared that. We've done it in the past, but it is quite a little undertaking to follow very strict protocols about these assessments. So it takes just 90 minutes in reading, math, or science. Should a parent want their child excused from that test, they certainly can call Mrs. Roper and make that plea, and it will be granted. The first grade concert and art exhibit is being postponed. I'm not sure when that was supposed to be. It will now be on February 26th. More information will be coming home. And we had our PTF meeting today, and something we've been working on for a few months now is the Dinner and Author Family Night, which is going to take place Thursday, March 19th at 5:15. We'll be hosting a spaghetti dinner, as well as an author named Rachel Burke, who will be visiting and presenting along this theme of fostering a family reading/writing culture. So there'll be more info on that on the very famous purple PTF paper that we sent home. And finally, we had a great turnout last week for the community meeting for the Walking School Bus Grant. It was well attended. There were various agencies in attendance, like the police, City Hall, and a nice write-up in the Ellsworth American as well. At the meeting, Darcy and Sarah from Save Routes to School shared info on how to get our walking bus in action when we return from April break. Information on how you can become a walker. Sounds like you should be able to do that pretty easily, but we'll be getting that home to students who live within a mile radius of the school. And once we have the students, then we'll begin our bus routes, our walking routes. And Mr. Norwood is our coordinator. He'll be building a bank of volunteers to support the walking effort. And if you're interested in walking with the students, please contact Dave at dnorwood@ellsworthschools.org. I think I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ann?
Good evening. I'm Annie Sargent from the Adult Ed program, and we've had a busy couple of months getting our program underway. So my report will be fairly brief, but I do feel that we have enough numbers for the program to share some of those. So I'm going to start with that. A snapshot of our program numbers is that we've had 57 enrollments in our high school completion program. That's a total of 35 students in all, so some of them are taking multiple classes. We have 8 enrollments in our English language learning program, adult basic education, 42 enrollments, so that's people improving their reading, writing, math, and in some cases basic. No, it actually doesn't include the basic computer literacy skills. And then adult transitions, these are folks who have a high school diploma but are working on their skills to go to college. 33 of them, and about 27 total technology students. That's been a focus of ours, so I earmarked that. And 65 involved with workforce training of some kind or another, and then 195 enrichment enrollments. So for a brand new program, only partway underway, I'm feeling really good about those numbers. I hope you are too. Our volunteer opportunities session was scheduled just after the meeting last month, and it was a real success, a great example of the way that Ellsworth Adult Education can participate in promoting learning in all different kinds of ways, volunteering being a significant one. And we're going to continue that on an ongoing basis. It was a great community activity. And we're really trying to build our instructional team, including volunteer tutors. And so I've been working on designing a blended online and face-to-face tutor training. And I have 2 people so far. Looks like by next week I'll have 4 who will go through that journey with me to develop basic reading training for adults who want to work with adults at every level. So that's exciting. And then in terms of our technology grant, where I keep bringing this up, but I am really excited about it. We have 2 basic computer classes, an iPad Basics and a basic computer literacy class, a waiting list for the basic computer literacy class. So that's a program that we hope to offer more classes in. But our digital literacy program, we had 7 students participate in the fall. 5 of them were credentialed because we have this program where we can credential them in 7 computer areas. So I think that's a really great resource for the community. If anybody's interested in that, give us a call at Ellsworth Adult Education. And then another point to bring up is that 4 out of 5 of the new students in our spring semester are adults in their 40s and 50s who are looking at changing their careers. So we have been working closely with Ellsworth High School and working with a lot of younger students, but we also have a lot of older students who are participating in all aspects of our program, which I find exciting as well. So unless anybody has any questions, I think that's a start.
I mean, that made me think about Verso closing. I was looking at a chart that was showing where some of the employees are based, and we have folks in Ellsworth that were employed at Verso. And I'm wondering if we see any folks taking programs through adult ed that have been laid off and are looking at new options for the future.
That's a good question. I do know. They have, there's an organization called the Hancock County Transition Team, and anytime there's a closing of any kind, we come together. We come together on a quarterly basis all throughout the year, but when there's a closing, we come together more often. We've been having monthly meetings, and the way that program is set up, they actually have a center in Orland where they're doing initial training and sort of processing folks, figuring out exactly what they need. And so we haven't seen, I thought we would see a lot more, I designed a lot of programs for work-ready training of all kinds, the job boot camps, as well as the work-ready training and several other items. We haven't seen as many as I had thought we would. They tell me at the job training program who's coordinating that effort that they will be coming. So if anybody knows of anybody, we are very eager to support them. I see it as an important part of our role, and all of the adult ed programs in the county are working together to do that. So,
Thank you, Ann. Rachel, please.
Good evening. I am Rachel Corman Ramos. I'm the curriculum coordinator for the Elders School Department. Let's see, we're starting with our proficiency-based education curriculum update. As Mr. Applestein said at the high school, we just met yesterday with the proficiency-based steering committee, had a really wonderful conversation talking about integrating the experiences of the teachers in the freshman academy and working with them as well with the teachers who are in the upper levels as well as the teachers who are in the middle school to garner some experiences from them and be able to talk to them in kind of we're hoping kind of in a panel fashion where teachers who in the middle school are starting to do the proficiency-based work can get a sense from them of what their experiences have been on the ground, if you will, as they are working on proficiency-based teaching. So we had an excellent conversation about working on that. We also met at a staff meeting at the middle school and elementary level, discussed with the teachers about our vision for the proficiency-based education rolling out. As Mr. Newitt said, talking about developing units. The elementary school will be working in Rubicon Atlas, the curriculum mapping program, as well as the middle school and the high school, but it'll be their first taste in the elementary school of starting to look at how we can attach different units to different standards. So they started that work this past Friday during PLCs and reviewing the Atlas Rubicon program. And looking at the template that they'll be able to use to map out their units and giving some input to me throughout the district about how they would like that to look so that all the teachers really feel good about how they'll be using mapping tools and what can work best for them. I was really pleased to see the activities around that. The after-school program will be starting after February break at the elementary and middle school. I want to thank Kelly Rudolph, the Title I one of the Title I coordinators at the elementary school, for leading that work with me. She knows all these kids so well, and she is looking forward to working with the teachers and helping coordinate that program. So she's been doing a great job, even calling me on snow days and us coordinating because we were planning to meet on one of them, and both of us standing in our kitchens and working that out. So she's been really dedicated, and I'm very grateful for that. It was one of those things that got started a little later than we had planned because of becoming a new school district and all the hurdles with that, and she just picked it right up and offered to help out with that, and I'm very grateful for her expertise, and I really want to thank her for that. The exciting part about our Go Mad for Literacy mentoring program with the HCTC early childhood students and our fourth grade students at the elementary school is that they have agreed to come and present and meet you in our April meeting, so they can come talk to you, and we're hoping that several of them will be able to come and share with you their experiences. I went over to see one of their mentoring sessions last Wednesday, and now each of the mentors and mentees are getting together and planning a lesson plan together. And so the two of them presented to all of the other mentors and mentees and become the teachers together. So it's been very exciting to see those students kind of open up to their kind of, I would say, their mentors. They've become like big brothers and big sisters, and they've really developed wonderful relationships. They were all creating superhero characters this last time and did a great job. So it's fun to watch that. The Smarter Balanced MEA testing update. We just met today at
Maine Principal Association's webinar they were hosting about the best way to schedule those tests and to make them the least disruptive for kids and for the school. Got some really good advice on that. We're continuing to have the teachers look at the practice tests and show students in, you know, kind of just in a morning meeting or in small pockets, the types of items that will be there, so it doesn't feel like something so new to them when they see it. And we were able on Wednesday at the staff meeting just to talk about how the teachers will really be the best ambassadors to the students, so that they don't feel like this is something too scary, that I think it'll be something that the kids will feel is new, but through all the abilities of the teachers in the schools and and how they're talking about it and integrating it into their lessons in a very natural way, I think the kids will have a good experience with it. So I'm very pleased to see all the teachers really taking an active role in learning about it and looking at the practice tests and that kind of thing. The elementary science partnership training I alluded to last month has gotten started. I want to thank Melanie Brown, who is our ESP trainer. She is a teacher in the 4th grade who was part of the cohort training with the elementary science partnership through University of Maine. And she started her first training at PLC 2 weeks ago and will continue for 6 trainings for all the teachers over the course of the next couple months. And so we are contracted to have that program for the following year ready to go. I think teachers will be able to do some work over the summer to organize all of the things that we'll need to do these really exciting labs and science experiments. So we're really going to be bringing hands-on science into the classroom. So they'll be learning a lot about that. They're very excited about the new resource called STEM Scopes. And so I think that science is really going to be an exciting venture with some new resources to invigorate all the teachers on that. As far as data analysis for the program and resource planning, we have planned with Bill Zellick from the Schoodic Institute to work with each grade level at the schools for a half a day to look at the data they've collected with their students in all different ways, and Fountas Centinel data, our iReady data, assessments that they've given in class. And he's going to have an opportunity to meet with the teachers and talk to them kind of in a focus group setting where you can really get a sense of what their experience is in the classroom, where they see their challenges, where they look for support, the resources that they like, the resources they would love to see, that kind of thing. And so we're going to really get a chance to hear from them in a small group setting where they can really talk about their experiences and give us a sense of, of kind of a program evaluation, so that he can, from the outside perspective, hear all of their input and give us a sense of what he feels next steps are in each of the grade levels. So the teachers have told me that they think it's a really great idea, and they're looking forward to the time to talk amongst themselves. And it's not something that teachers always get, that opportunity just to kind of sit and process. And so we've afforded that time, and we're looking forward to doing that in the 2nd week of March. And finally, the Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Team, our CIA team, I'm actually officially forming as of tomorrow. And we'll be meeting on 2 Thursdays a month from 3 to 5. We're getting representation throughout the school district, so we'll have a pre-K through adult representation on that committee to look at curriculum resources and professional development planning and other issues that are related to the entire school district. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. My report will be relatively brief. One of the items I would typically report on is our work on the proficiency-based diploma model. As you know, there's a separate agenda item for that topic this evening, so I'll focus most of my comments there. But would like to report on new staff that we have hired since the last meeting. At EEMS, we have hired Ed Tech, Emily Staples, started recently. And interestingly, we have finally been able to fill all of the parts of the CNA clinical supervisor role. As you know, we advertised for this back at the beginning of the year and received virtually no applications. Recently, we've received a number of applications. As you know, last meeting we reported on one hire. This meeting we're pleased to report that we've hired Kara Piper, EHS grad, to fill the other part of the part-time position at HCTC. We noted a couple of letters that we received earlier in the meeting. we'd like to report that we accepted on your behalf the retirements of Ruth Vanetestein, who is currently the literacy specialist at EEMS, 30-plus years in education in the Ellsworth system, and Gloria Searway, who is currently serving as an ed tech, and she has served in some other roles over her 23 years here. Both of those ladies will be retiring, Ruth at the end of the school year, and Gloria actually in the end of the month of March. So we would like to express appreciation to these ladies for their years of outstanding service and dedication to the children of our community, and wish them a wonderful finish to their final school year and the best of luck in the future. An item that we're very pleased to report on tonight is we are finally moving forward on the principal search process at Ellsworth High School. I distributed a timeline to you folks a little bit earlier, but would like to mention for those here in the audience and also for the viewing public that advertisements were placed this week on the Serving Schools website. Appeared in the Bangor Daily this past Saturday and will appear again next Saturday, be in the Ellsworth American this coming Thursday, and be in the Maine Today, Portland Press Herald this past Sunday and this coming Sunday. Applications will close on February 24th, and we are tentatively bringing the screening selection committee together on February 26th. That committee includes 2 members of the board's personnel committee, Don Hudson, Marcia Jude, leadership team members Jim Newitt, Greg Applestein, and Lynn Maddox, high school guidance counselor Beverly Homich, EHS student Justin Brown, Jennifer Alexander, who is a parent of a student at the high school, and city councilor John Moore. We're bringing those people together on the 26th to screen applications, select applicants for the first round of interviews, and review questions that we had developed back in July when we did this process the first time around. For the remaining part of the schedule, we're looking at scheduling first round of interviews the week of March 9th, second rounds of interviews the week of March 16th, and selection of a final candidate either the week of March 16th or the following week, and we will be very pleased to bring a candidate to the board to present to you at the meeting in April, on April 14th. And while we were under a very significant time crunch back in July and August when we did this process, this is the perfect time of year to do it, and we expect a great number of applications and a lot of strong candidates. So we're looking forward to that process. And that is my report, unless you have questions.
Thank you very much. We have committee reports to go over tonight. We do.
No, we don't.
We have no old business to review. No new business.
Staff presentation.
That presentation, which would be you guys. And Jim.
Doug is handing out a sheet on our mentor-mentee program, which is what this is all about. I was very fortunate, or the school was very fortunate, I should say, that Doug approached me about this idea. Ran it by myself and Mrs. Peterson-Roper, because this is a K-8 initiative, actually a 1 through 8 initiative, which Mr. Libby will explain. We embraced the idea, and then Doug took it from there and met with the staffs on both sides of the building, and he'll tell you more about it. I included in my other papers kind of a list of some activities that happened. I'll start with Mr. Higgins and just pass by just a few pictures of some of the things that have gone on, but Mr. Liddy will explain what this is all about.
Thank you. I'll try to get by without coughing too much. I've got a tickle in my throat. I've got a cold, so I'll try to get through it without coughing too much. Well, I've had this idea when we first got together and we had the new school and we came all together, kindergarten through 8th grade. I can remember one of the biggest fears I heard from parents of young children were, oh my gosh, you know, these kindergartners, these first graders, they're going to be with 7th and 8th graders, you know. Oh my! And I kind of approach it jokingly, but there was real fear. They were afraid that these older kids were going to hurt these younger kids, and which was kind of shocking to me at the time, because when I first started teaching, I taught at the little town of Surrey, and when we went out to recess, it was kindergartners through 8th graders, and they were all out there, and the older kids, when I looked around, I basically saw older kids looking out for younger kids, and I thought, well, I think that's what's going to happen. I think, you know, there might be an incident every once in a great while, but for the most part, the older kids are going to look out for the younger kids, which is a great thing, because you want that. You want to develop that caring relationship. And so I thought of this, and I broached it with Mrs. Roper and Mr. Newitt, and they went for it. So the purpose on the sheet for those people who are viewing was to provide a mentoring opportunity for the students in 5th grade through 8th grade, and to provide the students in grades 1 through 4 with a mentor right there at the school, to help create a one-school atmosphere, and to develop caring, sharing, social students that would then, in the community, be that same thing. Because I thought, gee, wouldn't it be a great thing to have a mentor that you followed all the way through? When you get to high school, you've got someone there, and even in the community, you know, oh, yeah, I had that kid, that was my mentee, or that was my mentor. So my idea was 5th graders would be matched up with 1st graders, 6th graders would be matched up with 2nd graders, 7th with 3rd graders, then 8th with 4th graders. And you would follow the same kid all the way through. So the kid in 1st grade who has a 5th grade mentor has the same mentor every year. So that by 7th and 8th grade, hopefully, there's a really strong bond there. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice for kids to come to school, walk around school, and see the younger kids waving like, oh, there's my mentor, and having the older kids like, yeah, you're kind of taking them under their wing. When I broached it with the principals, they loved the idea. When I talked with teachers, they loved the idea because it wasn't going to be overwhelming. We thought we'd do it once every 3 or 4 weeks. So it wouldn't be every week, and it wouldn't be for an hour. It would be maybe 15 or 20 minutes, maybe half an hour at the top. And kids would get together, and sometimes it was going to be academically centered. It would be kids sitting down and maybe going to their math facts, reading together. But other times it would be just for pure fun, just to go out and have recess together, have a chance to eat lunch together, you know, just to get to bond and look out for each other. So in the months since it started, I've had nothing but good reports. Every teacher I talk to likes it. They all do different things. You've got a list there. And we mentioned one today. You mentioned with the 8th graders today what they're doing. So overall, I think it's been a great addition to our school. I hope we will continue to do it. Did I miss anything? I don't think so. I think I hit it all. Do you guys have any questions about that?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say I think this is a really great program. I'm just so happy that, and as a parent of currently an 8th grader and a 2nd grader, I've always thought that, you know, having two children who are 6 years apart, that of course, you know, there's going to be, I mean, it's great seeing them work together and interact together and help each other. And
now, when I first approached this with my kids, I thought some of them aren't going to buy into it, but they were all excited.
Yeah.
The ones that were nervous, there were kids who were nervous, and those were the kids who don't have any siblings or don't have any younger relatives. So they would look at me and go, Mr. Libby, what am I going to do with this? What am I going to do? I said, well, just kind of talk to them, just play, just do the activity. I said, you'll be okay. You know, the students who had younger brothers and sisters or younger relatives, they bought in right off the bat, you know. But and so we sat down and we did match them up. Each group sat down and tried to match up kids that at least would have something in common, And we also have now sometimes maybe mentor-mentee relationship is going to work. So we're flexible. We can match up. If a match-up isn't working, we can switch it.
you have some mismatch in the number of students in each grade also. So.
Yeah, I have a couple of kids in my room who have 2 kids as mentees because there's more of the 3rd graders than there are the 7th graders, so they have 2. But that's okay.
Yeah.
And we didn't necessarily match up boy with boy and girl with girl. There are boys who have girls and there are girls who have boys, so you know, we just tried to match it up with interest. And so they get together and they have at least one thing in common to talk about.
That's terrific.
I think this was a conversation that you and Brenda Frost and I had about 4 years ago.
Yeah, we did.
We did.
Yes, we did.
Yes, and I'm very happy that the time is right and that it's working because it does need to be one school.
Yeah, one school. And I just think it's anything we can do to get that sharing and that caring amongst kids.
Mhm.
Because that'll only carry forth as they get older, hopefully. That'll just carry forth.
Thank you so much.
Terrific.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you
so much.
for taking the time
Take
to
care.
talk to us tonight.
Thank you. Yep.
It's a tie game at the end of the third, sorry.
Okay, tie game at the end of the week.
Wow.
For the viewing public, we'd like to let you know that the girls' playoff game is a tie game at the end of the third quarter. We expect an update within the next 15, 20 minutes. You ready?
Yes.
Members of the board, those in the audience, members of the viewing public. This item is an item that's talking about the Department of Education proficiency-based diploma program as provided by state law, and to provide you folks with an update on the Department of Education's response to our initial proficiency-based diploma extension option application that was submitted back in September. And you may recall doing that several months ago. At the time, we expected that we would receive a response from the Department of Ed within a couple of months. And I'll talk a little bit about the timing of the response again in a minute. But what I would like to do for those in attendance and those viewing is do a quick chronology of how we proceeded from pre-submission of that application through the fall, from the receipt of the response from the Department of Ed, and what our plans are moving forward and what recommendation we have for you. For you folks on the board, I have provided you with a copy of the revised application that we hope you will consider here at the end of this presentation. So, with that being said, let me start from back in September. On September 17th at the board meeting, we submitted the application for option 2. And what option 2 represented was an opportunity for a school department to receive a 1-year extension from all of the requirements of the proficiency-based diploma program that is statutorily required to begin implementation with the class of 2018, which is this year's 9th graders. And what a proficiency-based diploma is a diploma based upon demonstration of proficiency on the 8 content areas of the Common Core State Standards in English Language Arts and Math, and the main learning results in the remaining 6 content areas, and on the main learning results guiding principles. It's important to note that the application was completed during a time of transition from being part of the RSU to becoming part of the New Ellsworth School Department, and in a time of transition with leadership at the district level and also leadership at the Ellsworth High School level, and the pending departure of our current Dean of Instruction at the time. But with all those dynamics in place, what happened was all of the information that had been gathered from the previous 2.5 years of outstanding work by the teachers and staff at Ellsworth High School in preparing for this transition to a new educational model, all of that information was gathered together, and our current curriculum coordinator, Rachel Corman-Ramos, and our former Dean of Instruction, Nikki Chan, took that information, took the application, and culled through all the information and put together a program that we were very pleased with, very proud of, and thought represented and honored the work that was done by our teachers at Ellsworth High School and administration at Ellsworth High School, represented the appropriate goals for our pending transition to a proficiency-based diploma model, complete with evidence and timelines and benchmarks that we are going to track throughout this school year. We shared the entire contents of that application with all of the staff at Ellsworth High School, asking them for feedback, asking them for their thoughts and comments, asking them for their suggestions. From that process, the application was completed and also included opportunities for us to meet directly with the staff at Ellsworth High School and get their unanimous support for the contents of what was in that particular application. We brought it to you, you approved it, and we sent it to the Department of Ed. Throughout the fall of 2014, teachers at the high school have worked very hard through the pilot year in accord with the plan that was submitted. They've identified areas of strength in the program that they were transitioning through, and areas in which, frankly, we needed to find some adjustments because there were things that in theory work extremely well, but when you actually, as one of the teachers said, live in the swimming pool of the program, you find that there need to be some refinements and adjustments to those pieces. And we've had a number of those, not a significant number, but a number of those over the period of the fall and early winter. The plan for this year in general included the opportunity for our teachers at the high school working with the students in grade 9, mostly our freshman academy teachers and some teachers who have a crossover between having just freshmen and teachers have freshmen and upperclassmen, to work with a proficiency-based model. And it was truly a pilot for the teachers. But in order for the teachers to pilot it, students needed to be part of it. And they worked very hard moving forward. We wanted to give them roughly the first semester of the year to live in that pilot, and then bring the 8th grade teachers at EEMS into the fold to have them start preparing our students who are going to be in grade 8 and grade 9 next year, who would be the students who under this application will be the first ones who are live, if you will, under a proficiency-based model, help to make them prepare. Okay. So December 4th, we held a parent community forum. I believe many of you were in attendance. We had a number of staff members there, had a very good turnout, and we provided an overview of where we were with the pilot, a review of what a proficiency-based model actually is, and the differences between that and a traditional model. We got a number of great questions from parents, a lot of great feedback from parents, and a lot of, after the meeting, a lot of great feedback from parents. Still a lot of questions for what does this mean for my child, but it was an opportunity to be transparent and open with the members of our public, and I think it went a long ways towards helping us move forward. In early January, and this is the time where I'm going to come back to the timing of when we received a response to the application, we started to hear from some of our neighboring districts that they had received responses to their application. Many of those districts submitted their application on the October deadline. If you remember, we submitted ours in September. I contacted the Department of Ed and was told, we've sent your response to you. We checked our emails, we checked our U.S. mail, snail mail, we checked in the spam folders, we checked everywhere. No notification whatsoever from the Department of Education. Okay. We pursued it, and finally we were told, we will have one for you. On January 12th, I received an email copy of a letter dated December 30th, which is the Department of Ed's response, which I'll read a little bit of here in just a minute, which provided information for us that said, we're recommending you take a different option, and we'll get to that in just a minute. We still didn't receive the hard copy. When we received the hard copy, about a week later, the date on the the date on the letter was December 24th. So something happened in the Department of Ed where there was a delay in getting us the information, which is unfortunate. But that being said, what the Department of Ed is doing is recommending that we take an option different than the one we submitted an application for. What I would like to do, however, because again, I think it's important that we honor and respect the work that has taken place within this school system, in particular at Ellsworth High School, of the teachers and staff there, to plan and prepare for this pilot and transition and do the work that they have done over the first 6 months of the school year. So I'm going to quote from the letter. This letter acknowledges receipt of the Ellsworth School Department's request for an extension to meet the proficiency-based graduation requirements at Ellsworth High School. The department commends you for your efforts to advance proficiency-based education. Again, recognition that the department understands the work that's taking place here. Given the evidence provided in the application, the Maine Department of Ed has reservations about the district's readiness to meet the proficiency-based graduation requirements in Extension 2 and recommends that you consider resubmitting an application for Extension Option 5. Within the past 3 years, and I want people to truly hear this, your staff has proactively reached out and began to build a system of supports and the infrastructure to transition successfully to proficiency-based diplomas. While the evidence in your application is very well done and very well presented, it indicates that more time is needed to refine the system to better support the learning within the infrastructure. Extension Option 5 will give you the time needed to refine the work in the areas described in your 2014-15 benchmarks. The annual renewal process will give you an opportunity to evaluate your progress and determine if you may be ready to apply again for Option 2 in June of 2015. I read that because I really want to emphasize that the teachers and staff at Ellsworth High School, okay, and by extension through the beginning of this year at EEMS and at the leadership team level, have done outstanding work to advance proficiency-based educational programming and instructional models to our students and our parents. Okay. It's important also to note that the Ellsworth School Department is not the only department in the state of Maine who received a response on their application from the Department of Education where the department was giving a similar message, asking them to take a step back and take the benefit of additional time to better refine the good work that you're already doing. Okay? Again, I'll say that one more time, and again, this is for the viewing public as well. Ellsworth is not the only district. Many districts were given a very similar response. There are many districts that applied for option 2 who are being asked to go to option 5. There are many who wanted to start, were told to move to option 2. There were many who were looking at option 2 who, depending upon their work within a particular content area, were told to go with extension option 3 or 4, which is a partial implementation this year and a partial implementation over the next 2 years. So that is what the department recommended. The other piece that it's important to know is the department also said, we're not mandating that you change your decision. If you would like to stay with the option that you applied for, we're asking you to align certain criteria in your benchmarks and your evidence to meet what they believe would be what is necessary to move forward with next year's graduating class who would be entering Ellsworth High School. So I talked with Mr. Lindberg, Mr. Newitt, Mrs. Corman Ramos about what this letter said, and we looked at it, we considered the pros and cons, and we came to the conclusion as a very small group, leadership at the high school, the middle school, and the district level, that this recommendation from the department head has great merit. The next piece that we wanted to do, and this comes back to honoring our teachers. If you remember, when the school department withdrew from the RSU, one of the things our teachers talked about was wanting to be heard, respected for their professionalism and their expertise. This is an example of how we're doing that. We took this information back to the Ellsworth High School teachers, and I had the opportunity to meet in one of their Friday PLCs by myself. Mr. Lindberg was not available that day. He was out ill. Mr. Applestein was not able to be there. So I had an opportunity to give this information to our teachers and talk about the pros and cons of the department's recommendation. As part of that discussion, the teachers had some of the following comments, and I agree with them. The transition from a traditional model to a proficiency-based educational model is a significant transition. All of us here in this room, including the audience here, and most of our viewing public have not experienced education in anything other than a traditional instructional model. So this is a significant transition, not just for Ellsworth High School, not just for the Ellsworth School Department, but for Maine and also nationally. Okay. Our teachers believe that, yes, we've done very good work and we're appreciative that it's recognized, but the benefit of additional time to ensure that our practices and protocols and procedures are in the best form that they need to be to ensure student success and increase student achievement. The benefit of time was something they thought was a good idea. Despite the fact that the teachers are very pleased with the progress made in the pilot year, and this is evidenced by comments we've received from parents. Parents have spoken very positively about the work of the Freshman Academy and how they have served their students very well. But even though they're pleased with that progress, they agree that additional year will be in the best interest of the school, of the teachers, and most important by extension, because if the school and the teachers are having that opportunity, this will benefit our students in the long run. What the additional year will allow is time to collaborate within Ellsworth High School, having teachers sharing their experiences, sharing their successes and challenges with transitions to instructional models that support proficiency-based education, looking at their assessment practices and being able to share the successes and challenges. Not only that, it allows us not just a portion of a year to work with our staff at EEMS, but a portion of a year plus an entire year. So the teachers thought the benefit, again, of that extra time to allow that type of work to take place would be beneficial. The other thing that they thought, and I agree with, the additional year also allows us to continue to identify, here are some areas of challenge, what professional development supports can we provide to our teachers to help them continue to develop their skills so that their practices are not just very good, but outstanding. Again, we have teachers who are right there anyway, but the professional development, that's a great thing to have. And a final factor, as I talked about earlier in this presentation, earlier in the board meeting, we'll be hiring a new full-time principal to come to Ellsworth High School next year. As you know, Bruce Lindberg has filled in for a year and has really done a great job working with the staff and helping them move forward with this pilot. But Bruce will be gone at the end of this year. An additional year of pilot will give our new leader coming in at the school level an opportunity to be part of that pilot for a year and to help further develop it so it's ready for full implementation. And I will say it publicly, one of the criteria that we looked for back in July and August when we were looking for a principal, and one of the criteria we're looking at now is what type of background and experience with proficiency-based models do you have, and what level of success have you had doing that? So when you look at all of those factors and all those pieces that we discussed with the teachers, you can sense that there was some support of the teachers for taking the Department of Ed's recommendation. I asked them to take a formal vote. The vote was unanimous, that they wanted to look at the additional year. And again, I must stress that this is not because they didn't feel prepared. This is not because they don't feel that they're ready. This is not that they don't feel they've been working hard and doing wonderful things for our kids in developing this model. It's that they wanted to make sure that the best possible model is ready to go, and having an additional year for the number of reasons that we just talked about makes the most sense. Okay? And I think that's very telling. Department of Ed is looking at, here's your evidence, there's nothing wrong with it, but it makes more sense for this timeline. Our teachers looked at that, and our teachers knew that they had the option to stay with what we asked to do. Okay? Again, this is not a failure by any stretch. This is our professionals looking at all of the evidence and saying this makes the most sense for us and our students. So since that time, we've had a number of other meetings that have taken place, multiple meetings at the leadership team level to talk about how we can move next steps. Now again, the application that was submitted has benchmarks for the 2014-15 school year. One of the things that we've started work on is, and again, remember, we got this response partway through January, is looking at what we need to do to transition those benchmarks so that we can take best advantage of how we can spread them out over the additional year's time period. Okay. Mr. Applestein mentioned earlier the Proficiency-Based Steering Committee and their work. Okay. They're going to play an integral part in how we refine and reshape what's in the application in terms of timelines and benchmarks. Okay. They will be working in conjunction with what Rachel mentioned as our new CIA committee, which is Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, because the steering committee is going to be here as we develop the pilot, shepherd in the implementation of the program. Okay. And at the end of that time period, their work will be done, but the CIA team will carry on that work, not just from a high school level, but from an overall pre-K through adult ed level. It will be an excellent transition. We had a meeting with the K through 8 staff last Wednesday, where we talked about the information in the letter from the Department of Ed and what it meant, and talked about how their role at that school is going to change a little bit and what it may mean for them. And that was received very well. So just as a quick overview for the balance of the 2014-15 school year, at our K-4 level, and again, if you think about instructional models at the K-4 level, they're closer to a proficiency-based model than any other level in the school system. It's not truly proficiency-based, it's proficiency-referenced. But if you think about a grading report that you received as a student back when you were in kindergarten, first grade, or second grade, how well does Dan Higgins tie his shoes? He does it very well, he does it fairly well, he doesn't do it well at all. It's a clear descriptor of how I perform against that standard. Okay. There's more of that type of reporting and that type of work at that level than at the traditional middle school and high school level. But the work there is going to be on further aligning the standards to our curriculum, instruction, and assessment practices. And that's work that they embrace. It will tie into what Rachel mentioned earlier about our Atlas curriculum management and tracking programs, because it will be important for us to have the ability to look at what we've provided for instruction, because in a proficiency-based model, we will have to be able to look at what did we do for students, how many opportunities did we afford them, to demonstrate that we've provided every opportunity possible to help students move forward. So that will be the work for the rest of this year at that level. In grades 5 through 8, each teacher will, in the spring of 2015, okay, implement one standards-based unit or portion of a unit using a common template for that unit development. And that's something that's going to require us to support them, be it through release time, common planning time, and we've talked about what options we have in our leadership team meetings to allow them to further develop those models on the work that they've already got for curriculum, but look at how they're going to assess them as well. This will give them an opportunity to move forward with their work and understanding of the model, but also start to prepare students in our middle school. And we're not just talking grade 8, we're talking grade 8, grade 7, grade 6, and grade 5. Okay? It's a great opportunity to expand that work there, and we'll talk about what that means for next year in just a minute. At the high school, obviously, it's to continue the pilot, it's to revise the timeline and benchmarks as necessary, how we can take advantage of the 2-year time period rather than the 1-year time period, but to expand and focus on increasing vertical communication with the teachers at EMS. One of the things that we found coming into a new school system was there were some challenges in communication between our grade spans and between our buildings, and we've worked very hard on that this year. And we're prepared for that to happen on a regular basis. The additional year is a perfect opportunity for that to happen, and we're moving forward with that as we speak right now, and you heard about that in the meeting that took place today. Hancock County Technical Center is part of this process as well. They will continue to have conversations and work with Ellsworth High School. And again, that was a gap that we've had over a number of years between our traditional academic high school and our vocational school. We've been bridging that gap, but this is an opportunity for us to strengthen that particular bond and work on conversations with the high school about how we connect the industry standards necessary for Hancock County Technical Center students with the Common Core standards and the main learning results. So that focuses on the balance of the work within the schools of this year. Over the summer, we're talking about identified professional development at all levels, and we're envisioning some of the format to be not necessarily just bringing people in to talk with teachers, giving our teachers a chance to go and talk with people in other schools who have had some successes with the model, but also opportunities to provide them time paid in the summer to work on developing their units, strengthening their alignment with the standards. So at EMS, it will be basically on unit development to prepare for what they're going to be doing next year in terms of a transition to a proficiency-based model. At the high school, again, it's a continuation of work on the pilot and how we can best prepare students and staff for the implementation the following year. Curriculum mapping will take place at Hancock County Technical Center. 2015-16, at EMS, our current plan is to implement fully a proficiency-based educational model from grades 5 through 8 in the 3rd trimester. Okay. At the high school, in addition to continuing forward with the pilot, and this is something that's been one of our challenges thus far, is how we can best report student performance against standards to parents and to students. There are a number of software packages out there, but they're all over the board in terms of how well they're put together, how well they work, how well they meet your needs and goals and objectives. We're going to use time during the first part of next year to take a look at, number one, our Infinite Campus system and how well that can do this for us, but also look at some other models because we have seen some challenges with Infinite Campus in this respect. And it would behoove us to look at other models that are out there that can provide the best information possible for students and parents. And again, that's one of the benefits of a proficiency-based model is more specific reporting on what your children can do when measured against a standard. Okay? Now, that is all work within our schools. The other piece that we know was a challenge in past years was our communication with the public. So we've also talked at length about what is our public information campaign. We did talk about a community forum in December that we held. And our plans were and still are to continue those. What has caused us not to have another one yet is the timing of the receipt of this response to say you should consider taking an extra year. But what we've talked about as a generalized concept is continued public forums with our parents at the high school and middle school level to update them on progress and everything that's going on with the pilot, how we're going to move forward, and how that's going to impact their children. We're also talking about taking advantage of meetings that are already scheduled. You've heard talk of the step-up days and the open houses. We're going to make sure that we have either myself, principals, curriculum coordinator, teachers on hand at all of those to do a specific presentation and do questions and answers. We're also talking about the traditional format of sending things home with kids, making it available. You can never fail on that one. but we're also going to take advantage of our technology capabilities. There is active Facebook pages at the middle school and the high school. We have an active website, which if you continue to look at it, continues to improve each time you look at it. Okay? And one of the pieces that's really perfect timing, you know the city has a public access television network upon which we're being televised right now. We've been talking with them over the past couple of months about how we can actually share that station and basically have a 50-50 split of city-based content and content related to the Ellsworth School Department. Okay. We're ready to make that happen. So what we're talking about doing, and I'm really excited about this one, is providing some interviews or public speaking sessions where someone in the school department, and right now I've been identified as the first person, to talk about some of the things that we're talking about tonight and update our parents on the status of this pending transition. Now, we will have other pieces that go along with that, but as you know, this public access television reaches far and wide, and we have a great viewership. So, in terms of the work within the school and the public relations campaign, we've got plans in their form right now that are developed and we think are ready to go. We need to refine them a little bit, and we're doing that on a daily basis. And we're looking forward to making this work. Now, before I get to my recommendation, I just want to reiterate again, it's very important to know that our teachers, not just at the high school, but across all the grade spans, excuse me, are embracing this work. They've done outstanding work thus far during the preparation for the transition, pre-initial application, in developing the application, and in working in the pilot. Okay? And in particular, because the Ellsworth High School teachers have been the ones on the forefront of this, we need to make sure that they're recognized for their work, okay, and their effort and their expertise. And we'll have to continue to make sure that as we move forward, we honor the work that they have done. So, with that being said, the application that you have in front of you, okay, was revised at the direction of the Department of Ed, who guided us in saying, if you want to move ahead with this option, this is what you need to do, which is to take the benchmarks and the timelines and the narrative and revise some of the dates in there that we know. For example, instead of implementing in 2019, we implemented in 2020. But in essence, we've taken what we had for evidence at that point in time and put it into the format that meets what the department thinks is our best option for success and what our local teachers and administrators believe. So with that being said, my recommend is that the board vote to accept the Department of Ed's recommendation to implement option 5, which again is an extension of the proficiency-based diploma required implementation date from the graduating class of 2019 to the graduating class of 2020, and for you to approve a submission of the revised extension application for that option.
So I move that we approve the revised proficiency-based diploma extension application as recommended by the superintendent.
And I will second that. Any discussion?
So can I, what we have right now, this is what's being submitted?
That document there reflects what will be submitted tomorrow. Okay. And again, I will also note, it's important to know this, the time that we were supposed to receive this response from them, they wanted us to have a response to them by January 15th.
Right. Yeah.
So that will be submitted, but what we're also going to submit, if you remember the first time around, there were a number of attachments that went along with this. We talked
Okay.
about our rubrics, habits of work, and a number of other documents. Those will be sent again to the Department of Ed so they have the complete package.
Okay. So if we want to reference some of the detailed pieces of what's going to be happening going forward, well, some of the things that you reported on.
Yes.
Well, it's all in here.
They're in there.
Okay.
And again, but I will remind you,
Yeah.
as we continue our work, that steering committee at the high school is going to be looking at those benchmarks and timelines and looking at how do we modify and adjust them based upon
Yeah.
our experiences so far, and how we can expand them over the 2-year time period rather than the 1-year time period.
Yeah. Can I keep asking questions? Dawn, is that
Sure
all right?
may.
So in terms of materials like this that actually have great resources, it's a great resource in terms of just understanding the
Mhm.
complexity of is there a place on our website where we could post information like this it could be in our minutes, of course,
It will be in our minutes, and that is one of the pieces. Now,
Yeah.
we did talk about, and we haven't been able to get it into place yet, is a link on the site that can link, first of all, to the Department of Ed website
Yeah,
where
right.
this actual document exists. Okay? And once you take the vote and we submit this, they will also post the second one. They're also going to post the letter that I read from. Okay, so there's a clearinghouse there. But yes, as part of our public relations campaign, we're looking at using all of the electronic and technical resources that we have. Because again, one of the failings in past years, or one of the oversights in past years, was not enough clear communication about where we had to go under this statutory requirement.
Yeah, I think this is useful. Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll move to a vote. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you. And before we go, you better sign it. Thank you.
Do you want to move on to the division and mission?
Certainly. I thought I might get a break. I guess I'm not going to.
Well, would you like me to talk about the?
I don't mind. A poor joke. That's- But just a quick overview for the members in the audience and our viewing public, and a review for you. Back when we first started out, and actually before that, I know you, during your budget development process, put funds aside for work on refining, revising, and reviewing our current district vision and mission statements and guiding principles and beliefs. And I know when you first brought me on, we talked about what would be the most appropriate time to do it. In an ideal world, it would have been before we started doing anything. But as we know, we don't live in an ideal world, and we were in the midst of a transition from being part of a district to becoming a brand-new district. So what we talked about doing was getting the school system and school year up and running, getting our feet on the ground, dealing with the withdrawal and restarting aspects, allowing our teachers to get started with students. We talked about maybe late fall, early winter of moving forward with this particular process. So as we got moving along, we decided it was time, and we talked about how do we want to proceed. As you know, you asked me to bring in a consultant to talk to you about what they may provide for services, and directed me to talk to that person about what it is that we're looking for. I provided that consultant with background on the entire transition from the RSU to becoming a municipal school department again, talked about the timelines and the transitions and what we were looking for, which was a look at what do we want the Ellsworth School Department to be and look like in the future, how we can make sure that the vision and mission for our school department is a reflection of not only our schools and our employees in our schools and our teachers and administrators and our board, but also to include our community at large. As you know, part of the withdrawal process and part of the restarting process was wanting to strengthen the connections and relationship between the school department and the city. As you well know, that relationship is fantastic right now. Okay? And as a sideline, the city is going through a similar process where they are going to be looking at a new vision, a revised vision and mission, about the same time we're doing it. It's an ideal time frame. But in explaining all of that to the consultant, she agreed to come and meet with you in your workshop last week, and she provided you with some background on what she can provide for us. And although you're not allowed to vote in a workshop, there was some interest in hearing more from this lady, and you folks suggested that I work with her to come up with a proposal. So I have done that, and she has provided a proposal here for us. And I bring it to you for your consideration. And again, for our viewing public, maybe it's important to talk a little bit about what the intended outcomes of this process will be. One is a definition of the preferred future for the Ellsworth school system to include mission, vision, and core beliefs. A sense of ownership in the shared vision of what the Ellsworth community wants the system to be like in 5 to 7 years. And again, there's our connection to the community. Okay. A clear community-based direction that will give focus to strategic planning, and a group of supporters ready to be involved in making the vision a reality. And as an underlying theme, when you have a vision and mission and guiding beliefs in place, it sets the tone for all decision-making that you make on behalf of your educational program and your students. Timing is ideal. So with that being said, I'm going to make the recommendation that you approve the proposed work agreement for Mary Jane McCalman of McCalman Educational Consulting. I'll let you know that her proposed cost is $8,000 plus travel expenses. Anticipating your question, maybe what can we expect for travel expenses? She lives in the southern part of the state. What she is talking about is her travel back and forth, which is mileage, which would be at the state rate. And she's envisioning, when you look at a vision planning conference for an evening, probably needing to have lodging and meals for an evening. So we're probably talking between $1,500 and $2,000. And for the services that she can provide, that is a very reasonable cost. And for the benefit that this school system and city will gain by this process, it's a bargain.
I move that we approve the proposal for vision and mission consulting services for McCalman Educational Consulting as presented.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. All right. Now you can rest.
Thank you.
I think we should move on to item K
Yes.
before we go into executive session and cover the rest of our upcoming meetings. Our meeting schedule, the policy committee meeting. The next one is scheduled for Monday, February 16th. At the Ellsworth School Department Central Offices at 8:30 in the morning. Is that incorrect?
School break? Did we decide to? It's school break, right?
That's correct.
You
So
know
it would be the
what?
23rd, wouldn't it?
It's the 23rd.
Okay. The next policy committee meeting will be Monday, February 23rd at 8:30 in the morning at the central office.
I apologize for that mistake.
It's okay. I'm just glad that we got it sorted out now.
The next board workshop, where we'll be doing our board self-evaluation, will be February 24th at the central office at 6:30 in the evening. And our next school board meeting will be Tuesday, March 10th, right here in City Hall, Council Chambers, at 6:30 in the evening. Great.
And do we need to do any scheduling for budget workshops now, Don, or not?
I can answer that. We're still meeting with, at the administrative level, our department heads and building principals. And what we are envisioning, based upon the board's timeline, the city's timeline for budget approval, which would be final approval by the council of the school budget on June 4th, the budget validation referendum, on June 9th. We envision looking at the month of March for our finance committee meetings with our administrative.
You may just
Yes.
already
Yep.
said that, so that's
Yep.
good to know. Okay.
All right. So,
I move that we enter executive session under 1 MRSA 20A 4056E for the purpose of a negotiations update as recommended by the superintendent.
I second that.
any discussion? All in favor?
Before we go off air, I would ask anyone in the audience if you've received an update on the basketball
It's
game.
girls lost by 6.
We're sad to report the girls lost by 6.
They lost 39-33. It was tied with a minute left.